Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Welcome to everyone. I always like to emphasize how much I really enjoy the fact that we have this small but growing uh, sub community within the watch community because obviously there is a larger watch community than what we have, and most of us belong to other larger groups. For example, I'm a member of the Red Bar Frankfurt chapter watch club. This club doesn't charge anything. Well, Red Bar doesn't either. I don't believe. I haven't been sent a bill yet. Um, but we can do real time discussion about watches at your convenience, or at least if your convenience is 9 o'clock GMT on a Sunday evening. Hey, elusive man and David. I haven't seen you before. I don't believe I recognize that name. Nice to see some new people on board. Gian, nice to see you. Tanya, hey, how's it going, Tanya? Warren, always nice to see Warren. And Uncle Tacitus. We got a good crew tonight. Daniel, hey Daniel, how's it going? I mentioned the first. Okay, his is okay. No, the first watch topic comment is from Uncle Tacitus. Is there a wrong reason to buy a watch? Really? Well, I mean, if you have the resources, right? But a watch that you're not 100% invested in is a partial waste of money. And it's a watch that you will eventually regret buying and wind up reselling anyway, 9 times out of 10. So think about, the purchase. And I know the purchase is the visceral dopamine rush of conquest and purchase and acquisition and all of that. But snowfall in New York. So Daniel says, I mentioned watch snobs when talking about the Accutron. Have I run into any watch snobs recently? Well, I'm very lucky because I shouldn't. There are definitely snobs in my locality, but I am lucky that I don't encounter many Germans. For example, I know I have one of my favorite people in the watch community is a friend of mine that I'm actually met through the channel. We watched the channel and we got connected. I've done that with a couple of people. Take the curse off the washing machine, and I hung out in Brooklyn, not in Brooklyn, in South Manhattan, Houston Hall. Um, I love the partnerships that can be developed in this kind of a situation. And Chris, he's a purist through and through. I mean, he owns a Speedmaster 2, which is right off the bat signs of watch obsession. And he recently picked up a Sherpa, which is a beautiful compressor watch. Really lovely piece. Makes me want to buy one so badly now because I'm envious of his because it really is a beautiful, beautiful piece. Um, but Germans, they're not snobby. They're just really competent. And so when it comes to a German watch geek, they're not a snob, but you better have your ducks in a row if you're going to argue with them about something because you'll get them to, let's say, for example, Bill Sanders, he's not a German, but he'll appreciate this argument because he's anti-silicon hairsprings because he feels a metal hairspring in a distant post-apocalyptic future when there are no 3D printers or spare parts or anything, a watchmaker could fix that metal hairspring, whereas the silicon hairspring, it's a piece of glass. You're screwed, blued, and tattooed, um, which is a very valid point. Very valid point. And so that's the kind of watch snobbery you'll get out of your average German because they're so precision minded. I shouldn't. I know that kind of ties into a stereotype, but the stereotype has a basis, and I'm literally living here as an engineering journalist, and I deal with a lot of German engineers, and I live near Frankfurt, which is full of bankers. So I'm dealing with numbers people all the time in all directions. In fact, Chris is a numbers person. So, and the thing is, Chris is not a watch snob, but he appreciates watches to a level where he's not going to take a lot of BS from anybody either. And I think that's the difference between a very critical collector and a snob, because a snob will say, for example, a snob would say, for example, the moon swatch is garbage. And we're not talking high horology here, but it's not garbage. It sold a gajillion copies. I mean, I've had multiple ones pass through my hands and I've sold them, but this one I'm gonna keep. This is an Earth to this is the moon phase. This is the moon phase black moon swatch, and I'm gonna keep this one. Um, I think I paid 300 euros for it. Yeah, okay. It's not a Patek, but it's a nice piece. So, for example, someone who's very critical would say, "Well, it's, not a knockoff or whatever," but you will eventually get them to admit that for the price and for the marketing and, it is a variation of the Speedmaster. It's worth the 300 euros, you know? Ooh, Elusive Man is jabbing, Gian gently. "Hey, take the curse off the washing machine. Nice to see you tonight." "Oh, you bought the Highland Park 12. I hope you like it, Gian." Oh, no, Tanya had given him the advice, or her I must admit, Gian is kind of like, just like Alex, it's a androgynous name, and then I don't wanna make the mistake and use the wrong, gender, appellation, but it's nice to see you take the curse off the washing machine. It's always nice to see Gian. And Tanya, it's always nice to see you. And actually, it's nice to see everybody. That's what, like I said, I love. We don't have a huge group, but we have a decent sized group of people. I'm pushing 8,000 subscribers. I'm hoping next year to hit 10. Let's see. All I have to do is maybe do some more work, get off my butt and do some more video. But I don't want to turn this hobby into a job. So I'm happy with the slow organic growth, but a toast to all Jameson tonight. A toast to all of you out there. And happy Christmas, Kwanzaa, Saturnalia, Festivus, Hanukkah, um, Kwanzaa, whatever works for you in the solstice celebrating season, because it all comes from, because and that's actually related to timekeeping. It all comes from the solstice. Ancient man celebrated the fact that the days were getting longer again. We're not all going to die, that's worth celebrating. And the Romans, they used to give little gifts to each other at the season. And of course, the pagans with the Christmas tree and the Yule log and all of that all of these different flavors blended together to create the season that we have now, that we're all just able to recognize that the sun's not going to die and we're going to make it another year, because that's all essentially what this is, right? And then New Year, you party your head off because you're like, yeah, we're gonna start this travail again with a new number attached to it. But then that's, like I said, that's also tied to the piece, which wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Tag Heuer Carrera GMT Chrono skeleton. I really like this piece. Um, and it is a column wheel. It is a column wheel chronograph, a really nice movement, and it's a pain in the butt to set, but it is a quick set date and a travel GMT, which is very difficult to do because what they do is instead of in an office GMT, the GMT hand turns in one when you pull it out to the crown to the first position, the GMT hand goes in one direction and the date goes in the other. In this, the date goes in one direction and the local hour hand goes in the other, which makes it easy to set for time, but tricky for the date because if you don't do it right, you could be out of sync with the home time date wise. 12 o'clock noon as opposed to 12 o'clock midnight. And that's why not too many people use this approach. I'm not even sure if Tag still makes this piece, but of all the Tag Heuer watches out there, this is the one that I really consider to be among their best attempts. Because of course they do make a tourbillon and they make some really other very cool movements, but those are inaccessible to the average person. Whereas this is accessible to the average person. And this is a really nice watch. And it's a GMT. And it looks cool. If you're into busy pieces, some people don't like busy pieces. So for the people who don't like busy pieces, get get the IWC. Okay, it's not a chrono, but anybody who doesn't like busy pieces, I guess chronos are out of the question anyway, right? So hopefully I answered your question about watch snobs, Daniel. I'm lucky to not bump into watch snobs, but and especially since I go to watch events and um I like to think I'm developing a friendship with Jupp Phillips, the CEO of Fortis, because I really do like their pieces. I have a I have a vintage. I have a Fortis B42, which is a really really nice Fortis, and even then was screwed everything, screwed lugs, screwed links. Just a really well-made tool watch. And I'm really pleased that Jupp is still following in that vein. In fact, now that I realize it, there's some design language from the B42 in the new Stratoliner because the B42 also doesn't have a tachymeter scale, which you don't really need in the space watch unless you're doing faster than or close to faster than light travel and are doing like what parsecs per hour, or yeah, parsecs per furlong. No, no, not furlong. Furlong's also a distance. Parsecs per fortnight. There you go. Hmm. But I hope you enjoy that Highland Park 12. Gian, I'm a Swatch Group snob myself, just mild and nothing offensive. Yeah, well, the other side of that coin, Gian, um, you do have to recognize that the Swatch Group saved Swiss watchmaking during the quartz wars. If the, s- I mean, and think about it, the Swatch Group were a group of very large, very long established Swiss watch companies. And Hayek convinced them. I forget his because I don't want to confuse his name with his son. Who's his son is? I believe his son is still in the executive wing of the Swatch Group. But Hayek, Nicholas, but well, Hayek talked the big watch groups into becoming the Swatch Group, and they streamlined the operation and supply chains and all, and they saved the watch industry, and they created the Swatch watch, which a lot of the first generation Swatch watches, if they're not collectible, they should be because a lot of those early ones had a lot of off the shelf out of the warehouse old movements from a lot of Swiss makers. Because, for example, I kicked myself. I had a Swatch diver that had 24 jewels in it. That was almost certain some old, really cool, uh, movement, and they don't make that model anymore. It's not even available anymore. I've got to. I would, if I could find one, I would buy it just to open it up and see what movements inside. But yes, you could be a Swatch snob, but you have to recognize that Watchmaking is a business too. And along with um, Spottenbräu and Paulaner and Hofbräu, you got Budweiser. And I'm not talking Czechoslovakian Budvar, or we can talk about Coors and Coors Light. Um, for every, I mean, you got to have mainstream stuff. And so Swatch is the McDonald's. Nothing wrong with that. I eat a McDonald's sometimes. Usually when I fly, because I figure if we crash, it doesn't matter if I ate a Big Mac. But the whole aspect of availability, opportunity, Swatch allows people to buy a mechanical diver for under 500 euros, a nice one like the Blanc Pan, 50 fathoms. It's got the System 51 in it. Now, yes, there are other companies that make arguably superior watches as far as quality, fit, and finish. But for that 12 bucks you're spending on the McDonald's Happy Meal, you could buy a nice uh gyro, falafel, whatever. There's a lot of food for that money too. But that's the other side of the coin about collecting is each of those watches has something to say about it, the Swatch versus, say, for example, um Tissot PRX Chronos. This has got a value 77.53 in it, but you're talking 1,800 bucks retail. You know, no such thing as a free lunch. Like, I recently picked up this watch, and I recognize that we're 20 minutes in, and I've only vaguely touched on buying watches for the wrong reasons. But then you have to think about, why do you buy a watch? What do you buy a watch for the right reasons? I recently picked up this Seiko, and the wrong reason would be to say I bought it because I don't have the Seiko in my collection. The right reason is to say I wanted a nice travel GMT that didn't call too much attention to itself, but was still a really nice horological piece. This is a mechanical travel GMT, limited edition. See, so that's the watch snob in me coming out. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do the Seiko. If you want to talk about watch snobbery, I'll be like, yeah, I'll do the Seiko, but I want the limited edition mechanical power reserve pointer date GMT watch, ceramic bezel, dark blue because I like blue. So, but I consider that more positive snobbery. I want a nice piece. I want to add something nice to my collection. If I saw someone wearing, say, for example, a Seiko 5 GMT, which I've owned myself, which is a great watch, office GMT, not a travel GMT, I wouldn't go, well, I have the BBBBB, because that's snobbery. To want a nice piece isn't snobbery. To deride other people for having pieces you don't consider nice enough for you, that is snobbery, at least in my opinion. And I'm not an arbiter of anything important. I'm just actually, there is an area that I can consider myself, like a real authority, but that's embedded power electronics, which has nothing to do with watches. Well, I guess it has to do with electronic watches, because I do talk to the people who make the capacitors and the semiconductors that go into advanced wearable quartz and smart pieces. But I consider an Apple Watch a smart wearable device whose secondary functionality is timekeeping. But buying a watch for the wrong reasons is the reason why people regret a buy later and then sell it, usually for a loss. And there are a couple of reasons to do it. One is you buy a watch that you think everybody else would like that you own. Unfortunately, there are people who want to please everyone else and don't think of themselves first. And I'm not saying you think of yourself first in a selfish way, but you need to think of yourself first in a satisfying way. How you present yourself, your style, your personality. So, if you buy a watch based on what you think other people will approve of, you'll never be happy because you're never gonna any group of people, you're not gonna get a consensus on anything. So some people will like what you do and some people won't like what you do. And if you try to please everybody, it's impossible. So you please yourself first, and if other people resonate with that, go for it. And an example I use all the time, is clothing. We all wear different styles of clothing. We don't all wear the exact same style of clothing to please everyone, but we make sure that our clothes are clean and nicely organized and well accessorized or whatever, and we project our own style through our clothing, and we hope that people may like that. But we don't change how we look just because of them. Okay, there are people who do. There are groups that tend to dress similarly, but that's more of a clannish tribal thing, and that's you know, different than wearing something just because you hope everyone will like it at the bar. You know what I mean? Uncle Tacitus, the habit of buying watches can turn into a shopping addiction really quickly. Don't ask me how I know. Ha 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 ha. You and me both. You and me both. Well, I mean, it's nice to have old watches, and it's nice to have new watches, and it's nice to have a collection if you have the resources to put together a collection. Um, but that path can be streamlined if you think about why you were buying. Maybe you'll change your mind. Maybe that's why we say save for a watch, don't buy it on credit, because also the time that you're saving, you can research and decide if that's the watch for you, you know? Um, so I mean, there are okay, when it comes to buying a watch for other people's perception, there are some exceptions. Because, like, if you bought, say, a sub, right? If you bought a sub, you may not be a big diver person, and you might be buying it just to satisfy what you think other people expect. But at least you're gonna get a good watch out of it, you know? That's the nice thing about a classic piece like that. I guess the danger would be more along the lines of something like the Moonswatch, buying something that's just a fad and you don't really expect to wear it much or you're not really that interested, and then you wear it for a short time, and then you go back to wearing your, Breguet or whatever, you know what I mean? So, the risk there would be buying on fad or buying on opinion or buying but then again, if you're really not into divers, why buy a sub? But then again, Rolex has got that covered because then you can get a date just and your friends will be just as impressed. Hopefully, you like the date just too. But that's the point to buy it. You want to buy it for yourself first. And if other people like it, icing on the cake. Mm, I'm getting hoarse for some reason. I must have been talking a lot lately. Oh, that's right. Last night, I got into a very deep discussion about stuff and things. But Gian, Elusive Man, was yes, Gian was responding to Elusive Man's jibe. Oh, hey, Damon Strathos. How's it going? My obsession cycles are typically all similar. I'm nearing the end of my watch. One second. Oops. I love it that there's so many that I actually scrolled too fast. Okay. My obsession cycles are typically all similar. I'm nearing the end of my watch cycle, but now have more and incredible deals passing my way. Well, if you're really a watch person, you're never done. I used to say I'm done after I got my Snoopy. I'm like, what can I get? But just because you may own the Mona Lisa, that doesn't mean you don't want to get like a Raphael for your drawing room. That's the beautiful thing about watches. You can have a collection and a variety and a beautiful opportunity to have a watch for every occasion, every situation that you like and enjoy and represents your taste, within your resources, of course, always within your resources. And yeah, you may think you're done, and then an opportunity crosses your path, and bing, now you're in for whatever your impulse buy zone is. But there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't buy watch on credit. Oscar, hey Oscar, Oscar Nunes. It's not garbage. It's a company that saved horology of, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Oscar. You could turn your nose up at Swatch, but they saved. Yeah, they were. Other companies followed suit, but if Swatch hadn't done it, mechanical watches would still be here, but it would be a lot more like Glashütte after the end of this, Cold War, as opposed to Geneva today, with unbroken manufacturing history. Uncle Tacit says Germans are the polar opposites of the French. They can't possibly be pompous snobs, but they sure a tough crowd when it comes to technicalities. Exactly. That's why the Germans are such great audiences. They'll watch anything interesting, but it better be interesting. They'll come to the opening of an envelope if it's done well enough, but it better be done well. If you see a crowd of Germans doing something, go see what they're looking at. That's how I wound up at the Spottenbroy 600th anniversary party. I was in Munich at the time. It was right before I went back to the States in 97. I wanted to be a human being living in a town like a normal person because I was a traveling salesman for over a decade to the military market. So I lived in Munich, didn't own a car, had a bicycle, and I ran a car stereo installation shop for someone else. I had one, but as when I was with Clifford, he was one of my clients, and he offered me the job, and I'm like, you know what, screw it. And so I did that for a year, bicycle to work every day, and lived like a human being in the city instead of being a traveling salesman 5 hours behind the wheel. And I'm bicycling home one day, and I look down a side street, and there's a crowd of Germans. I go to that crowd, and it turns out that's the entrance to the Spaten Brewery, and it was their 600th anniversary party. So Germans are great audiences. You see a crowd of Germans, go look at what they're looking at. It's going to be something interesting. And when it comes to watches, like I was talking about my friend Chris, he he dropped over €6, 6K euros on a Sherpa, and it's totally worth it. I'm envious of him. I'm thinking of going and getting one myself now because they really are worth it. But a snobbish collector wouldn't buy a micro brand at that price. That is only you have to really appreciate pieces to appreciate a piece like the Sherpa because it's not gaudy, it's not fancy, but it's tidy. You look at it and somebody made this who cared about watches. I do like the Sherpa, and I did ask him to tell me because the new owner, they engrave Tibetan prayers on some of the gears, so there's constantly prayer wheels going. And I told him to tell me if he gets increased luck or sexual potency, let me know. I'll rush to buy one. Those Tibetan prayer wheels going inside that watch. And the interesting thing is, it's not a display back, so you just know that it's well made. It's that kind of a watch. It's a collector's watch. And that's the kind of watch a German collector would buy. Oscar, I should say switch horology. Yes. Uncle Tacitus, my username is Arthur Morgan. Hi, Arthur. So, Sláinte, I have my Talisker 10 here while listening. And, well, I don't want to drink too much in camera anyway. So I'll have to wait until after the show. Well, we're halfway in to have another Jameson because I also don't want to get up and walk around and delay any of the conversation of this wonderful discussion we're having about buying watches. So, Elusive Man, thinking about going to a one watch collection. Impossible, my friend. At the minimum, you need a two watch. You need a dress watch and you need a daily watch or a quasi beater. So, for example, right, this is a great daily wear. This would make Omega Globe Master Annual Calendar. This would make a fantastic daily wear. But would you want to really wear it to some place that would get dirty? So then you get that's what you buy the moon swatch for. So then you got the two watches. You got the sporty thing that you can get scuffed up and dirty, and then you got the one that you wear when you're doing your stuff. In fact, I actually had an official portrait made for my editor in chief picture for the IEEE magazine, and I'm like, and I'm wearing my Globemaster because that's a this is a great dress watch. It's a great daily wear, but that's the beauty of it. You could wear it with t-shirt and jeans, and you can wear it with a suit. You could wear it with a tux, but you'd be pushing it. But love this watch. So I would say you need at least two. You need a nice piece and you need a banging piece, or you need one that you don't like this one. So like you would get like something like this, right? And then you get maybe something like this. Two watch collection. Soup and salad, breadsticks, you know? But that's the nice thing about being an old guy. I live alone, low rent. My girlfriend has her own car, apartment, and life. My daughters are adults, so I get to spend my excess money on watches. Not all of you can do that, and I recognize that. That's another thing about snobbery. To assume that everybody can afford whatever you can afford. That's snobbery. You don't have this? I'm like, yeah, dude, this is a Seiko 5 GMT. There's nothing wrong with this watch. Go screw yourself. Or gal. Not too many. I haven't noticed too many female watch snobs though. But price snobbery is the worst watch snobbery, in my humble opinion. Because it's one thing to say, well, I don't think that the hairspring in your watch has the proper tensioning or whatever. But it's another to say, boy, that's a cheap watch. I would much rather have the arcane snob than the ass wipe with the price fixation. There are a lot of watches out there that are gorgeous pieces that are not expensive. I mean, okay, expensive is a relative term, but I mean, I just recently got this back from the shop. Hamilton Mechanical Ventura, classic piece. Not worth a lot, but it's a fun watch. Wear this with this you could wear with a tux. Be all Elvis funky on people. Elvis, one of the pieces he wore in high rotation when he was in Germany, stationed, he wore a Ventura with his semi-dress, pardon me, uniform, because watches weren't regulated. And so wearing a very eccentric looking watch showed he's the king. But yeah, he wore, and the Ventura was the first electric watch. It wasn't a true electronic watch, but still ran off a battery. This one's mechanical. This was a limited edition. It even says on the side, it's based on the year. So this is number 162 of 1957. But I thought, you know what? It's not a bad. It's a fun piece, and it gives me something to wear occasionally when I want to wear something funky. And it's the one I wear on my left wrist when I'm double wristing because it's small and discreet. So that's Elusive Man about home watch collection. But I find myself not wearing a few unless I force the rotation, but I do love the pieces I have. Conflict. Well, what I would do is I would put them in two piles. Don't go to a one watch, but maybe you go to a three watch, right? I know you have more than three. Go to a four watch. I would say, well, Peter Kotze, good friend, bro, um, great photographer, excellent watch blogger. He has 8 as his upper limit, but you could get away with a 5. I could probably get away with a 5 and sell everything else. I'd cry over some of them, like this one. See, that's the thing. This this is why you have more than one watch in your collection because you can't wear this watch everywhere. But there are times you want to. Be honest, there are times you want to. Can't wear it everywhere, but OMG. If you have big hands, because I'm a lucky guy, I got a big enough hand to get away with it. The watch doesn't extend beyond the edges of my wrist. But that's why you have watches in the collection, so you can wear different watches for different situations and still express your personal style. Because watches are, especially in the time when you don't need a watch, it's an accessory. But such a beautiful, elegant, lovely, mechanical. Not necessarily always mechanical, but at least, well, even a quartz watch is electromechanical. Elusive Man, I got a tag. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. This is a tag. The Carrera 2 skeleton. I okay, full disclosure, I used to have this. If you look 3 years ago, I've got videos on this, and then I sold it and I regretted it and I bought it again. But see that's a different argument, selling a watch for the wrong reasons. But I guess we could talk about some of that as well. I sold it because I have a lot of watches, but it's not like I have a lot of things to spend money on. I mean, okay, maybe if I was into coke and hookers or something, but I'm not. So the money doesn't go a lot of places. So, and the thing about watches is you spend money on a watch, it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm pushing 20 watches again, maybe a little over. And one of the reasons I sold this one the first time is I'm like, I have too many pieces. But then I'm recognizing, you know what? Gives my daughter something to sell when I'm gone, and maybe they'll keep some of them. So I've decided I don't care anymore. I don't care how many I have. I hope I don't wind up with more than I can wear comfortably. But I say if I have, as long as I have less than say 30, I guess, then I can arguably say to myself, well, I'll wear one a day a month. But there are watches that I own, but I don't wear often, like my Accutron, right? This is the 70s reissue. Um, but I just like owning it. It doesn't even have a fresh battery in it, but it's a pain in the butt to have the battery. You have to find a special battery because modern batteries have too much voltage. It runs them too fast. But I own it more to have in the collection. And so since it's not running, I don't wear it at all at this stage. And then I have pieces that I bought and I would sell if the opportunity came, but I've come to love like my Nomos. It's very plain Jane, but it's really a mullet because it's got that beautiful movement in the back. Just a gorgeous piece. And it has some elegant things about it, like it's very flat. And uh the date goes in both directions when you turn the crown. And I have this is like the only watch I know of off the top of my head, or none in my collection. This is the only watch in my collection that I could turn the crown in both directions and the date changes backwards and forwards, which shows you what an awesome mechanism is in that watch. Uncle Tacitus, great piece. Has a huge wrist presence. That's one of the things I like about it. Sometimes you want to wear a watch with some wrist presence, and it's just in the sweet spot between sporty and classy. And it's not like a vomit of watchness, like a Richard Mill. But that's also because it does keep with traditional case size and bezel, and also and it's a dark face. So even though it's a complicated face, it's not, you know what I mean? It's a relatively dark face. So even though it's a complicated face, it's not throwing it in your face. You know what I mean? I just really like this piece. I'm really glad I got it again. And it is, yes, now in the permanent collection. Well, I'm getting hoarse. Let's take a look at the comments. We'll see. That tag is beefy. Says, damn, Sam's dad mustache wax. Nice to see you, my friend. Um, I Tanya, I have a one watch collection of Hamilton that was given to my grandmother in 1960 on my grandfather's 25th with Pratt and Whitney. Well, see, that's a beautiful piece. That's a beautiful reason to have a piece. Timepieces are great for commemorating things because they represent time, and commemorations represent time. So yeah, wear it in good health and keep it serviced. And yes, Oscar, it is chunky. Slan Chamath is also a great song by the prog band. Yes. Sam's dad. What do I think about Timex moving up market recently? Why not? Because if you think about it, right? If a watch is now an accessory, right? Because Timex made their bones on you need a watch, buy a Timex, it'll always tell you the time. Takes a licking, keeps on ticking. The old school ones were very robust, no jewels. They were built like an old World War One trench watch. They weren't no jewels because they were trying to be cheap. They were no jewels because they had humongous pivot points and stuff. You had to reset it every day. But they literally in the commercials would strap it to the propeller of a boat and it would run. And they would strap it to all kinds of crap and it would run because their niche was cheap, good, functional, reliable watches. My first watch was a Timex. Got it in second grade, my communion, it's Catholic school. And that's what started my passion for watches to this day. But in a world where you don't need to wear a watch, and a watch is an accessory, a fashion accessory, a functional fashion accessory, then you want to be functional and you want to be fashion. So Timex going up market is completely logical because they have a legacy, they have a deep legacy. And to go up market, they're not going to compete with Rolex. All right. So to go up market for them is they're going to compete with Oris. They're going to compete with the mainstream Swiss brands. So why not have a $500 Timex? Why not an $850 Timex? $1,500 Timex, it better be mechanical. But More power to them. Let them go up market. Gives them something to show us. Gives them something that we can enjoy. And if they add variety and opportunity to the marketplace, more power to them. Some of their latest pieces are really nice. Some of the Marlins are really nice with the domed bezels and all that. I mean, the domed bezel-less construction, robust rehout, big ass domed uh, crystal. Really interesting designs that they're coming out with at Timex, frankly. Good company, worth it. Butters, hey, how's it going, my friend? Sam, Sam's dad mustache wax. Do I whine before or after? I whine before. Normally, what I do because I am also cognizant of the thermal. So when I take a watch out of the box, I'll put it on and I won't even set it. I'll wear it for an hour. Sometimes I'll forget and not do it until I leave the house, but I'll wear it and let it warm up. And the only hand wound I have is the Speedy, but and even that, I'll let it warm up before I wind it. So I put it on and I let it warm up and then I set it. So for me, it's more the thermal than it is the mechanical. I want the watch to warm up to its operating temperature before I set it. Elusive Man, day date 2300M. Ooh, nice. One in Casino Royale, World Timer, Blue Dial. I remember that. Well, we did a review of your collection. Diastar, the Sintra, the Longines Zulu, nice piece. The PRX, Ice Blue, Breitling. See, if I were you, I would get rid of one of the date justs, one of the Omegas, the Rado, the PRX, and keep the rest. That'll give you what, 6? That's not too bad. Butters, a Big Mac before a flight. My God, the poor bathroom. Luckily, I have a slow digestive system. It's oh my God, the hotel bathroom when I get to the other side. Okay, elusive man. I whine before setting time. Set it with cell phone. Yeah, I set mine with my cell phone. It's the signal, you know. But I wear it first. Let it warm up before I set it. It's funny how to see how accurate each piece is. They all are different. That's the thing about mechanical. Uncle Tacitus, that Seiko looks absolutely amazing. Doesn't hurt it's a limited edition piece. Positive snobbery is just the right term, my friend. Exactly. So I would say it's more just trying to be a better collector because I'm not looking down at other people's pieces. I just want to make sure I get good pieces. And I'm really pleased with this piece. I got it for 1,100 euros, which is a good price. Because I've seen it from 9 to 13, and I know who sold this to me. I trust him, and it's got box papers, so I'm in good shape with this piece. I'm really pleased with this piece, and this will be the piece I wear next time I'm flying because I'm flying to San Antonio. I'm gonna wear this as my travel piece, and then I'll wear I'll bring like a nice dress suit watch, and then bada bing, I got my 2 watches for my trip. Maybe 3. I might bring another piece just for the heck of it. Because I like to change pieces during the convention too. Maybe I'll bring 2, 3 suit watches, but I'll fly with the Seiko. Tacitus, exactly. We're social animals, and what other people think is important too, of course, to some degree. But first and foremost, it should be about what you like. I'm glad we're on the same frequency. The movement mensch, hey, how's it going? If I were done buying watches, then what the heck would I do? Good one. Reason to keep grinding. Butters, casual transition from moon swatch to brigade made me chuckle. Well, part of the swatch group too. Sam's dads. Do you think Vostok offers good value? Yes. Yes. but I'll buy vintage at this point because I wouldn't wanna give a I mean, I'm an old cold warrior, so I'll admit my bias. I wouldn't currently, with the Ukrainian situation, buy a new Russian piece, but uh, I'd buy a vintage Scuba Dude tomorrow. And you can pick one up for under 100 euros. They're great watches. I've had several. They really are. They really are great watches. Very well engineered. Engineered. You should see the videos I've have because I've got a video on my Scuba Dude in the archive. You should check it out. Great watches, well engineered, designed so that it doesn't have to be built well and it doesn't have to be used well and it'll still function. Really good watch. I mean, the AK-47 of watches. Really a great. This is the Vostok Scuba Dude. It's one of the greatest watches ever made, and it's under 100 bucks. One of the greatest watches ever made. Butters. Oh no, that was Sam's. Okay, Vostok. Oh, Mr. Donut. Hey, hey. What do I think about the Union from Glashütte? Oh, I think they make some nice pieces. If I didn't have my Longines value 7751 moon phase date, I'd get the Union. That's a nice piece. The Union Glashütte triple date moon phase is a beautiful watch. Beautiful watch. All of their watches are, I mean, some of their watches are a little out there in styling, but they're trying to be different, right? So no, but their quality, everything from Glashütte. I mean, they even have that company, and I can't remember the name off the tip of my tongue. They make highly decorated quartz pieces. Glashütte really leans into it. They're a good. There's like 16 watch companies in that town near Dresden, which is an old school watch city. I think Dorn. No, I don't know if Dornbluth is out of Dresden, but there are some good watchmakers out of Dresden. Some very good watchmakers, and Glashütte is in that umbrella. And Union is what I would consider mainstream. So, like, if I were going to compare Union to, if I were going to put Union in hierarchy with Swiss, I would say Longines. Union and Longines are very similar. Union, because they're not part of a conglomerate, give you probably a little better watch. I'd buy a Union tomorrow. They're good pieces. They are. I like Union. Are Holtzcan legit or gimmick? A little column A and a little column B. Is titanium a gimmick? Okay, it's light and strong, but so is aluminum. Um, Materials are part of watchmaking. So to be a company that has wood integrated into their cases and bracelets and the like, there are people who resonate very strongly. I know people who love their Holzkern stuff. So, yeah, yes, it's a style statement, but it's a legitimate style statement. You know, it can be both. You can be ostrich feathers or silk scarves, and it'll still keep your neck warm. Mr. Donut, hey, hey, if I didn't say hi earlier, the Globemaster's a great watch. I agree. Underrated. And the annual calendar is a completely off the radar. That's why I'm so glad I met. And I got this for 30% off. It's so underrated. It's such a great piece. Oh my God, this is such a great watch. And it's beautiful. You know, some watches aren't beautiful. Some watches are functional. This one's beautiful, in my humble opinion. Butters, I said it before, 8 watches is the magic number. Tacitus, always loved the Ventura. It is, it's a fun see, and that's the thing about a collection. I rarely wear the Ventura, but I like having it in my collection. But the Ventura is not for everyone. I don't wear it a lot myself, but I like having it. Gian, a former example is definitely me. I don't think the spring tension in the watch is blah blah. I've never point out someone's watch though. Instead, I use examples. Exactly. Don't put down anybody's watch. They took the time to put it on. Butters, I have a Hamilton Uranus from 57 with the same 500 original movement. Yeah, just keep it serviced. Mechanical movement will last forever if you take care of it. Yes, uncle. Wow, Butters. If someone's wearing a watch, says Gian, I don't like, I just go, that watch is good. Next time, get the talks about something else. Exactly. Because they're much better. Don't put them down, just point out something better. That's not a bad approach. Oscar, I was looking at a YouTube video saying that Invicta watches are not to wear because they look extremely loud. Not all of the Invictas look loud. They make arguably one of the best sub homages out there. Uncle Tacitus, lucky for me, even though I'm fairly tall, I have absolutely tiny hands. Small, it's absurd. Well, that's a nice thing. I'm very lucky. I can get away with wearing the big clunky pieces. Hey, Ravi Aditya. How's my health? You said I was sick last week. Exactly. Well, obviously, I'm getting hoarse. So I'm going to close out after these comments. We're at the top of the hour anyway, so the timing works. Still working on it, but I'm getting better, my friend. Thank you for asking. Junior Johnson, and hello from Wiesbaden. Tacitus makes the two of us have a habit of putting a watch on and not setting it for a bit. Exactly. It's a healthy habit. The thermal is often overlooked. Exactly. There's a 20-degree temperature swing from taking it out of the box and putting it on your hand. 20 degrees. That's a lot. Fahrenheit. Was it 8-degree? But still, to go from room ambient 70 degrees to 90 degrees, 98, 95 degrees, 25-degree temperature swing. There's going to be some thermal expansion. Wait till it does. It goes through that and then set it. The 7751 is a lovely movement. Restful ignorance. Hey, Junior Johnson, picture of David Bowie, just watching a video about Mick Ronson. I love Bowie. And I have a matching picture on the other corner of the room with Hendrix. Here, I'll even do, there, see, Hendrix. Now I screwed up my angles on the camera. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, the 7751 is a lovely movement. Blissful ignorance. My ultimate collection will be a hodgepodge of movements, materials, and dials. Well, that's the nice thing about having a nice collection. Gives you all kinds of assortment. So we're at the top of the hour. On that note, and I'm getting hoarse, I'm going to call it a day. Live long and prosper. Everybody have a fantastic week. And most especially, have a great evening.